Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric in our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today is the #1 viewer-requested video I get all the time. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It is Metamoqester. Of all the games that people ask me to make unported playlist episodes for, this game is #1, which is really surprising, but I've made it and you better watch it because it is a fun game. It's a boss rush game. Basically, it's like a fighting game, except you're just fighting against bosses the entire time. If you've ever played Red Earth on the Capcom CPS3, you're going to 100% understand what's going on. And this was a genre that arcade developers tried to make happen in the 90s, but honestly, none of the games ever really did very well, and this genre kind of faded into obscurity as quickly as it came out. This is made by Banpresto, a company that you're not going to hear mentioned many times on unported playlists, but that did make really good arcade games. Now right off the top, this is a very pretty looking game. The sprites are massive, all of the backgrounds look spectacular, and the animations are extremely fluid. This game has a lot of frames of animation for every single character, and that's probably down to the fact that there's not that many characters in the game, so the artist could definitely use a lot more time on each one. And finishing off that boss with a special right there, you get that really fun animation. This game just oozes style, and I love all the different designs of all the different opponents you're facing. You'll see there are 5 off the top and it randomly selects them. We're going to Titicaca for the Inca stage, and this background is just spectacular. It's got a great scale and depth to it. That statue in the background with those eyes moving left and right with the tongue hanging out. The game just is pretty. You cannot deny that. But what is a pretty game if the gameplay isn't good? And I'm going to say something slightly controversial right now, and you can leave me a comment down below and disagree with me. Remember, opinions are just that. But I prefer Metamoquester over Red Earth any day of the week because I find the gameplay just to be better. This game is fluid. It has a ton of response in the controls. The moveset is great, and it just moves in a speed and pace that I felt like Red Earth just did not give me, and that is why I enjoyed this game ever so slightly more. But you can disagree with me down in the comments. The algorithm loves that engagement. Feed it its blood, please. But honestly, again, it's a very strange game, but it's surprising to me that so many people actually requested this game. I did not see that coming. It's been on my list for forever, and every time I looked at it, I kind of put it off. But the more people asked me to talk about this game, the more I realized I probably should do it, and here we are. I will say though, this game is cheap. You get multiple lives per round, but when you run out of them, you're going to have to start over. And you do not carry all of your lives from stage to stage. You don't get a complete replenishment. If you beat the round 1 boss, you move on to round 2, your life gauge is going to fill up, but you're not going to get all of those lives back. So you need to be really good, and at later levels you need to learn the character you're using perfectly, their moveset, and you need to be able to read your opponent and find those openings, because it is unforgiving. I will tell you that. Even if you turn the difficulty down, Metamoquester is not the type of game that wants to let you win easily, and I'm sure that's down to the fact that if you get good at it, it doesn't actually take that long to beat. Banpresto wanted that money in the machine. Operators wanted those quarters to keep flowing, so it's a situation where they had to make the game hard because they didn't make the game long. But that's definitely design ethos in arcade games, especially fighting games. If it's the first in a series, there's generally not that many characters. Obviously, Metamoquester being a one-off, you get what you get, nothing more and nothing less. But I will say this game also has a really good soundtrack with some great sound effects, so go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds and I'll come back and tell you more about this really weird boss rush game. Enjoy!
Yeah!
The music definitely has a vibe, but I'm there for it. And again, the sprite art is just fantastic. This guy right here, made of ice, definitely has a pseudo 3D look to him. The sprite designers at Banpresto, when they were making this game, did an absolutely spectacular job. But if you're thinking, wow, this just looks like Red Earth, that is because a lot of the levels seem to be similarly themed. Now, Metamoqester came out in 1995, and Red Earth came out in 1996, so there's definitely just a shared development history. It's not like one game came out and Capcom was able to look at it, but I do see a lot of similarities in some of the levels between Red Earth and Metamoquester, most specifically this level right here in the ice stage. Now, I'm sure it's just coincidence, but if you think one looks like the other, that is why, because when we move back over to Metamoquester, it kind of feels like the same stage except with different characters. This is just an interesting game. It's too bad that the boss rush fighting game didn't really make it too far. Capcom was trying it the most, stuff with like Red Earth and the Mega Man Power Battle games, which are mostly just boss rush games, but other companies were trying it as well to pivot the fighting game formula into a different type of game entirely. And I think one of the reasons they did it was development time on something like this would be shorter because you didn't have as many characters. But we have beaten this match finally, and we can move on to the next match. I love those penguins just running around in the background. There's details all over this game, and it is so much better for having all of that detail added in. And we go to Germany here, we've got a Zeppelin in the background, and we've got a woman in a tank. This isn't a monster, this is a machine. The game's constantly pivoting the theme. So far we've been dealing with all sorts of monsters, but when you get to Germany, it is just a mech, kind of like a robot tank on tracks that you have to fight instead. And I do like that they changed that sort of theming up now and again. It's not purely just a monster game, it's got some human opponents in it as well. Kind of reminds me of Waku Waku 7. Ever so slightly, and that's not a bad thing to be reminded about. But again, go ahead and listen to one more piece of music. I love the theme in the Germany stage, and I'll come back and finish up with the history of Banpresto. But enjoy! Yeah, just such a great soundtrack. It's got those mid-90s vibes I love so much. And moving on to the England stage here, fighting Frankenstein's monster. Again, the artwork, the sprite work, the backgrounds, those cogs in the background, and the speed at which this game moves are all spectacular. And Banpresto doesn't really get that much credit for their games. They're definitely considered a B-tier arcade developer. Their most popular game would probably be Guardians. But this was the game you asked to see the most, and of course I wanted to make it. And I will say it again, you can comment down below and disagree, just do it in a nice way. 10 out of 10 times I'd rather play Metamoquester than I would Red Earth. I think this is the better version of the concept. Now I know there's a lot of love for Red Earth out there. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just love the speed at which Metamoquester plays a little bit more. And I would say that this is one of Banpresto's better games and might be my favorite of all time from them, but that's just my personal opinion. The only thing this game does not have going for is its difficulty. Even on the easiest setting, once you get stuck, it might be better just to walk away and try another day, because you will lose to the same opponent over and over again. Frankenstein's monster here always has my number, and he just seems to destroy me 7 out of 10 times that I play this game. But if you want to play a fighting game that's slightly different than your classic fighting game, you could do a lot worse than Metamoquester. The game is fast, it's fluid, it's got a great moveset, and I absolutely love the artwork. I think it is spectacular. But short of that, I'll be back next Monday with an episode of Unported Playlist. I'll have videos throughout the week as well, but you guys asked for this one specifically, and I hope you watched it. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.